If you're a Raptors fan, you obviously love OG Anunoby, but he doesn't always get the respect that we think he deserves in general NBA media. So the question must be asked about Raptors fans. Are we overrating OG Anunoby? Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Hour Sports. This is the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 days a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. This is your Wednesday episode where we are talking about OG Anunoby and if Raptors fans are kind of overrating him and potentially how far he can go in his NBA career. So if you like what you see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the NBA and the Raptors and videos and content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to show your support to the channel on a road to 5,000 subscribers. We are getting very close to the mark. You can help us get there, but let's get down to business. Again, talking about OG Anunoby. And this video kind of sparks from, wasn't planning on doing this video, but this video kind of sparks from what we learned about kind of how the Raptors fans perceive OG Anunoby from last Friday's video, where we're placing OG Anunoby in some trade discussions involving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And it kind of turned into, I think, Raptors fans really undervaluing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But then I went even further. And the next day I made a poll and I said, which piece is more valuable to a team between OG and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Now, my assumption from making this poll was that OG Anunoby was probably going to win the vote, though there is no way that he's more valuable than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, OG Anunoby, I get that he's great. I love OG Anunoby, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is younger and he's already averaging like 24 points. That could literally be like the first option for our team. But that's not really what this video is about here. It's about OG Anunoby, and we're not really going to compare him. I'm just saying that's where the video came from, because I really feel like people kind of have this super high standard for OG Anunoby, and I maintain a super high standard for this player. But I think some people are a little bit guilty of going a bit too high for him, and obviously there is going to be a little bit of a bias concerning a player that plays for the team that you like, the Toronto Raptors. So I can understand, and again, it didn't shock me that OG Anunoby won this vote. I just can't really understand why. So Raptors fans love to big up OG Anunoby, and it's for very good reason. I think that he is a great player. He has some fantastic averages in the shooting categories. He broke out, I think, this season a little bit. I think there's still another breakout coming for him, but he broke out with like 16 points per game. He was shooting very well from the field, almost 50-40, and he also shoots pretty well from the line. That goes along with the fact that he's one of, if not the best lockdown defender in the NBA, because he's developing an offense, but I gotta talk about his defense, because his defense is absolutely stellar. And what makes him so good on defense is that, number one, the most important thing about his defense is that you can put him anywhere. Not just, you can guard the 1 through 5. Like, there's a lot of guys you could say, you can guard like the 1 through 4. Maybe some guys, very few, can guard the 1 through 5. But for OG Anunoby, it's actually like he can play any position from the 1 through 5. Like, there are literal games where he is playing as the 5 against somebody like Nikola Jokic. That's actually happened last season. Nick Nurse went, all right, you're playing center, OG, especially when the Raptors had injuries, especially because we had Aaron Baines and Alex Len playing for most of the season. So OG Anunoby had to do a lot of job at center. And what's great about his defense is that the fact that, he can really guard the paint. But when he's on the perimeter and, you got to rely on your athleticism, your lateral quickness, this is where he can also shine. And I think the biggest thing about his defense is that he never really commits to one thing or another. He's always moving his feet in such a manner that he doesn't commit to, let's say, a pump fake. If you give him a pump fake, sure, he might like bite a little bit, but he keeps his feet in a certain position so that even if you do pump fake and try to blow by him, he is going to be ready for anything you throw at him. He's just so versatile and he's so prepared for anything that you come at it with. That's what makes him such a good on-ball defender. And, off-ball defense is also great, but his on-ball defending is where OG really shows how good he is, really thrives. And, I talk so much good about him here, but why don't we talk about his offense as well? Again, he's averaging some phenomenal shooting percentages. Again, with that 16 points per game, that was quite nice. And I think that at 23 years old, going to be 24 in just a few days now, but at 23 years old this season he showcased some very good signs. So, Raptors fans, we have an absolute right, I think, to big up OG Anunoby in media and whatever, because he does not get the respect he deserves. Because this is legitimately a guy who is ascending as an offensive threat. He's got the 3-ball down. He can finish easily on the interior because of how strong he is for his size. He is way stronger than he looks. And at the end of the season that we just had, he really started to develop that third level, that mid-range game. Because when you stuck it in his hands, he could create his own shot. And I think at the end of the season, he really broke out as a shot creator, even from three-point land. But then in mid-range, sometimes he would try to get to the rim. If it didn't work, he could step back a little bit and hit that mid-range shot. But what I like about this as an analytical friend is that OG doesn't always settle for it. It's kind of like a last resort where maybe the shot clock's wind down or it's just simply the only shot available, but he doesn't just settle. He tries to make it work in other things, and he will share the ball, but if he has to, he can knock down that mid-range shot. And still, he does not get the props that he deserves. And the Raptors signed him, I think, on a phenomenal contract that is about to kick in. 4 years, $72 million, I think, is one of the best contracts in the league, and it will look like that in 2 or 3 years. But where we can really gauge his potential, and we know there's always the comparisons between OG Anunoby and Kawhi Leonard, and there is an absolute reason why this comparison exists, because let's compare the two players. Let's compare OG Anunoby's 4th season compared to Kawhi Leonard's 4th season. So OG Anunoby, the season he just had compared to Kawhi Leonard's 4th season when they had the same experience in the NBA. So looking at the points, 15.9 for OG Anunoby, 16.5 for Kawhi Leonard. So already, that's very close to the points. Then you go down to rebounds, where Kawhi Leonard slightly edges him, 7.2 rebounds compared to 5.5 a game for OG Anunoby. Then assists, 2.5 assists for Kawhi, 2.2 for OG. Again, very similar. But now we get down to the shooting stats. The shooting stats is where OG can kind of showcase a little bit of his stuff here, because 48% field goal percentage for OG Anunoby compared to just under that for Kawhi Leonard, 47.9%. But then the three-point percentage, now we're starting to see a little bit of separation for OG. He's shooting almost 40% from three-point land, whereas Kawhi Leonard in that season only shot 35%, which leads to an effective field goal percentage of 0.58 for OG Anunoby and 0.52 for Kawhi Leonard. So, I'm not necessarily saying OG Anunoby is on like a Kawhi Leonard trajectory, but the stats are there. You're looking at them. They are eerily similar. And the same was said by me at the end of last season when OG Anunoby's 3rd season looked extremely similar to Kawhi Leonard's 3rd season. So based on what we're seeing this trend, OG does have the potential to upgrade that with some more usage. If you care about the usage percentages, by the way, for these 4 seasons, OG Anunoby's usage was 19% this season. Kawhi Leonard in his 4th season was 23%. And you can make the argument, and I respect the argument, that Kawhi Leonard might take some more difficult shots because maybe he's creating a lot of his own shots and maybe he was more of a focal point, but he was playing on a really stacked San Antonio team, so you could maybe understand why some of these stats are a bit lower. And that's a good argument. I could say a bit of the same for OG Anunoby. He's absolutely not the first choice on offense. You got Siakam, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry was there, and then later in the season, Gary Trent was getting a lot of the ball. So OG wasn't at the focal point by any means whatsoever for the Toronto Raptors. But I can understand that Kawhi Leonard maybe took some more difficult shots. But is that an indictment against OG Anunoby? Because maybe OG Anunoby is just taking the smarter shots. Because as a defender, I think OG Anunoby is either just at Kawhi's level, maybe a tick below. You could even make the case he's just a tick above. So defensively, they're very similar. Offensively, evidently, based on the statistic that we've seen, OG Anunoby is going on this certain trajectory. So now, I've said it before on the channel. I'm not saying OG Anunoby is Kawhi Leonard, but the stats are there. You can gauge those stats. You can make your own assessment of the situation based on those stats. So I think that Raptors fans, there is definitely reason to be super excited about this player, especially the fact that we've locked him up on such a team-friendly deal. My goodness, $18 million a season for OG Anunoby is going to look like an absolute steal over the next 4 years. I would say that OG Anunoby is the only untouchable player on the Toronto Raptors, but when I say untouchable, it's kind of a loose term because untouchable is guaranteed to a certain degree. If you seriously wow me with a trade or an offer of some sort, you can't really say no. So I don't think there's anybody who is absolutely untouchable, but if anybody is on the Raptors, I would say, and I think that most people would agree, that OG Anunoby is that untouchable player. But I think that Raptors fans can kind of sometimes get plagued by the fact that he's a Toronto Raptors player. There are definitely players better than OG Anunoby in the NBA, and we have to accept that. There are some players, maybe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who could be a more valuable piece to a team than OG Anunoby. Does that mean OG Anunoby is not good? No, it doesn't mean that at all. OG Anunoby is fantastic, and he's only getting better. If you want to compare OG to Kawhi, which I like to, Kawhi's 5th season was his breakout season where he averaged 21 points per game and became an all-star for the first time. Now, I don't think OG is on that trajectory, but can we see an OG Anunoby averaging 18, 19, damn near 20 points per game next season? I absolutely think so. And in a season where he's not injured and maybe plays 65 out of the 82 games, then I think he is 1,000,000% on an all-defense team, probably an all-defense first team, maybe even in the conversation for DPOY, because he was top 10 this season. And if he's playing a full season without getting injured, I think he's 1,000,000% in that conversation for the award. So to sum up, I think Raptors fans can sometimes take it a little bit too far when it comes to OG Anunoby, but it's hard not to when you seriously consider how young he is, 23, almost 24, just a few more days, 23, and these stats just getting better and better and better every single season, going along with the fact that he is such a lockdown on-ball defender. The future is bright and the sky's the limit for this player, and you can understand absolutely why Raptors fans are so excited. All right, guys, that wraps up for me for today, so let me know what you think about OG Anunoby and his potential in the comments down below, because we're done for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, be sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy the video at any point. Really goes a long way to helping us reach some new viewers for the channel with that YouTube algorithm. Also showcase that you made it to the end of the video. Check out our Twitch, twitch.tv/amateursports, where we watch along NBA Finals games. Plus, we're doing a ton of video game content and more basketball content to keep you occupied during the off season. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, on our road to 5,000 subscribers. You can help us get there by subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos by the channel that you may enjoy, and always remember, at the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. Enjoy the grind, and I'll see you again next time for another video.